Hey everyone, Captain here, internet's busiest trend jumper. Although I guess this isn't really a trend anymore. This trend kind of soared and then died over the course of like a week. Now it's not even really a thing anymore, as far as I know. So this will be the last one of these tier videos that I do on the channel. But I wanted the last one to be something that was a little more personal for me. So I chose a Linkin Park albums tier list that I'm going to make and put together here and talk about a little bit. For those of you that don't know, Linkin Park is my favorite band of all time. This has been expressed many times on the channel. And I've actually done a video similar to this already, not in the tier format, but I did a video where I talked about how, where I put various Linkin Park albums in terms of like my own personal ranking, favorite, least favorite, etc., etc. The difference with this though is that, maybe I prefer one album over another, but I can put them in the same tier. So it's a little bit different in that way. Not too different, but a little bit different. And I also intend on keeping this video shorter, than that other one was. That other one was like 30 minutes long. And so far, the first two episodes in this series have been like 40 minutes long. Not really looking to do that here. I don't expect to hold anyone's attention span for that long, let alone how long I'm going to hold it for, or however long this video will be. So let's just dive into it. So we got 1,000 Suns here. This album came out in 2010. There's an inkling that says 2009, but I'm pretty sure it's 2010. And it is, I would call it a concept album. Maybe some people wouldn't, but of course, I enjoy all of their albums. But I would probably throw this one into the A tier. Not enough to put it into the S tier. There are some tracks on there. I don't really dislike any track on the album, but it does feel from time to time, like, I don't know, more of a project, more of like a combination of various ideas than one cohesive idea. And for some people that might be really nice. For me, it does feel a little bit messy, but I still really enjoy the album. It's not even really a criticism. It's just like a personal preference kind of thing. So that's why I would put it in the A tier. I don't intend to rile anybody up with these rankings. I'm not sure. I don't even think it will, but anyway, we got Hybrid Theory here, their debut album. I'm going to put this in the B tier. It is, of course, you got to have respect for the debut album, inherently. But, aside from that, the production on it is, the production and the mixing are a little because it's, it's the early 2000s, and it's also their first studio album. So, it's going to sound more raw. It's going to sound a little underproduced in some areas. And for me, that kind of like takes away from it a little bit. You especially, in my opinion, you really hear it on the track Runaway. There's like the sound effect that they're going for throughout that I just really don't like, and it's because it sounds underproduced. I can't even really describe the sound effect. It's like supposed to be wind blowing, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I just don't think that. I think that the sound effects that they use are, of course, cool, but I think the lack of high-end production kind of brings it down. And granted, that's just the time period. We're used to higher-end production now and like overproduction now, because that's the era that we live in. And so this in comparison sounds underproduced. So it's just like a personal preference thing, not a slight against the album. I don't even think it's a criticism you could really make of the album itself. It's just a personal preference thing. So that's why I would put it in the B tier. Next, we got Living Things. I would probably also throw this into the B tier. It is their 2012 record. And in all honesty, this record, especially looking back on it now, it was the record that really got me into Linkin Park, and I will always, respect it for that reason. And I enjoy just about every song on it as well, but it does, and it has always felt a little bland to me, the record as a whole. It doesn't really feel like there's ever a whole lot going on. You have the singles that came out, Lost in the Echo, Castle of Glass, Burn It Down, Powerless. And then outside of those singles, you don't really have too much of anything else. You have In My Remains, good track, love it. You have Lies, Greed, Misery, like that track as well. And you have Roads Untraveled. I enjoy that track too. But outside of that, the other tracks that are on there are either short tracks. Tinfoil is an instrumental, I believe. And, Skin to Bone, not really a big fan. Victimized, not a huge fan. What's the other one? I'm missing one. Am I? I don't think I am. There's only... You know what? I mean, I could just pull up the track list and make things easier for myself. Let's pull up Living Things track list, so I can make sure. I'll Be Gone. I'll Be Gone feels like a fairly bland track to me as well, even though I do enjoy it. And then Until It Breaks too, which is, don't get me wrong, I like Mike's rapping, but that track always felt a little off to me. Couldn't really tell you why. Maybe it's like the distortion they put on his voice, but it kind of just always didn't feel too good to me. So that's, those are all the reasons why I would put this in the B tier. Maybe I didn't explain that in the best way possible, but that's my reasoning for it anyway. Meteora, absolutely going into the S tier. It is essentially a hybrid theory with higher production value. And if hybrid theory had the production value of Meteora at the time hybrid theory came out, hybrid theory would be in the S tier too. You've got a lot of real bangers in that track. Could people stop calling me, please? I'm trying to record a very important video here. You've got a lot of hardcore bangers. I hate that word, but a lot of hardcore bangers on this record. And it makes it that much better that the production value is higher because it really drives it home. There isn't a single track on there that I don't like except for maybe Hit the Floor, but I don't really even dislike that track. It's probably just my least favorite track on the album. So Meteora, definitely S tier for sure, 100%. Minutes to Midnight, I will throw into the A tier. I probably listened to more songs off of this album than any other album, honestly. You might be like, well, why isn't it in the S tier then? There are a couple songs on there that I avoid, and I think that is enough to warrant it being in the A tier. It's not that I don't like it. Again, I like every Linkin Park song. It's just, it doesn't really do anything for me. I don't particularly enjoy In Between. I don't enjoy that track too much. Trying to think. You know what? I'm just save myself the trouble again. I'll pull up the Minutes to Midnight track list. Because I know In Between is one track on there that kind of doesn't really do anything for me. God damn it. I pressed the wrong button. Here we go. In Pieces is also kind of a weird track for me. I do enjoy it to some extent, but it's also a little off for me. Same with No More Sorrow. Just a couple tracks on there that are kind of iffy for me, and I think for that reason it is warranted to put it in the A tier. Granted, there are a lot of tracks on there that I really enjoy, but it's those couple of tracks that kind of take it from an S tier to an A tier for me. One More Light, their latest record from 2017. Gonna throw this into... It's tough. Because, you know, from a musical standpoint, I would put it in the B tier. But from a personal significance standpoint, I would put it in the A tier. I'm trying to think of what matters more to me in this situation. Probably got to put it in the B tier. You know, from a musical standpoint, there is not a whole lot that is really impressive from this album. I'm just going to be honest. You know, it is a pop rock album. You know, but the personal significance that it has to me, you know, it coming out a few months before Chester died, and then the tracks on the album taking on new meaning, and you know, I do enjoy the tracks musically. It's just there isn't a whole lot going on with them. You know, they're not necessarily musically impressive. It's a lot of adopting trends in pop music and kind of doing their own thing with it, which I don't have a problem with, but it is nothing really too significant in that regard. It's just the personal element really that warrants it even being as high as the B tier for me. You know, the fact that a lot of the tracks on here deal with, not that, you know, Linkin Park's discography hasn't dealt with a lot of kind of personal, emotional issues before, but this album seems to really touch on a lot of, you know, a lot of various emotional and mental issues, you know, from talking about, you know, sending messages to your kids, or, you know, talking to myself, where it's from the perspective of Chester's wife, or, you know, a lot of tracks that are, you know, that have their own moral themes to them, and for that reason they all have some personal significance to me, which is why I would rank it as high as the B tier. Probably not any higher than that, though. I think the B tier is a pretty solid place for it. Oh, excuse me. Finally, we have The Hunting Party, their 2014 record. I'm going to throw this into the B tier. The reason it is not higher is the mixing, for the most part. You know, I mean, I enjoy the tracks on the album, but I'm going to be honest, the mixing is pretty bad. You know, you'll have tracks where, especially A Line in the Sand, that you know, it's pretty noticeable there, where Chester is mixed really low into the mix for some reason. You know, you'll hear him come in on the chorus. Mike was singing like on the, you know, on the verse beforehand, and he'll be mixed higher into the mix, and then you'll have Chester coming in and he's screaming, but he's mixed lower into the mix. And in that sense, it feels really compressed, and you know, and it feels like, I don't know, it feels like you don't get as much energy out of it as you should, because Chester's vocals are mixed lower into the mix. So it's like he's almost getting lost into the loud rock music that is playing behind his vocals. You know, and so for that reason, I would put it in the B tier. If the mixing was good, it would probably be A tier or S tier, but the mixing is not that great on it. And I don't say that to, like, I don't know, you know, to be rude or disrespectful towards the album, because I do love the album. But if we're, and granted, that was the first album where they had produced it themselves. They didn't have a producer working on it. So understandably, it's probably, you know, it was bound to probably have some issues in that department, but, you know, it just doesn't sound that great, you know. Would like to mention again that I love all of these albums. This isn't me, you know, being like a quote-unquote bad fan or something like that. I love all of these albums, but if I were to rank them, this is how I would rank them. Why I rank things, or the reasoning behind my rankings, of course, you can let me know. You can let me know also how you would have ranked the various albums. I would be more than happy to talk about Linkin Park albums. I could talk about it all day. But yeah, and I'm glad that I'm keeping this video on the shorter side as well. Supposed to going on for 40 minutes talking about 7 albums, you know. But anyway, this is where I'm going to leave this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comment section below. Like it, share with your friends. Lets me know that you want to see more of these kinds of videos, even though this is the last tier ranking video that I'm going to do. You know, the link down to this particular tier list will be in the description box below for you guys to make your own tiers and to mess around with. And subscribe to the channel for more content. I mainly do gaming content, but I decided this would be fun, so did this. You can check out the channel for all the gaming content that I do, all the other content that I put out. And thank you guys very much for tuning in, and I will speak to you later.